Yeah, we caught him. Look at him. Not even ready. Knew it was
I
gonna
was
happen.
getting ready. I had to go to sleep. You put me to sleep today. Sorry.
Oh, well, welcome to another episode of Lounge with Legends. What's going on, James? And I see we've already got some comments coming in. We got who we got?
Uh-oh. We got good morning, Uncle Roy. Thanks for tuning in. One of our number one fans.
Number one fans. Gotta love Uncle Roy.
Oh,
hey, it's been a crazy week. We had a lot of September 11th memorials, a lot of things going on, and but it's been it's been crazy. I know that for me, the Army 10 miler. Man, I was looking forward to the Army 10 miler running around.
Yeah, me too. I can't believe I'm so bummed that it's now virtual. I won't be able to be in person and run.
I think you're full of shit, but
oh wait, I was gonna run.
Hey, Uncle Roy, I think you got competition here. Someone's taking a shot at the title.
Oh. That's what the good thing is. He's not in the studio, so I can call him Sergeant Major Donnell Johns today, even though
Hey, so those of y'all that aren't tracking what James and I are talking about with the Army 10 miler, it has officially been moved because of the Delta variant to a virtual race. So what that means is I think I paid $89 to run around my house for 10 miles, which is like not cool. But anyways, that's what happened. So we're gonna roll with it. And that's what happens. It's about keeping people safe, I guess. Hey,
good thing we don't talk about those kind of things because I'm confused. Right? If you confuse, you lose. So I'm lost anyway.
Right. So, but hey, you know what I'm excited about, James?
No, what are you excited about?
September 15th.
What's going on September 15th?
My people, baby. Start of my month.
What?
Hispanic Heritage Month.
Oh man, I didn't know. You got seriously?
They gave us a month. They done messed up now, Ron.
That's a good month.
What?
I said that's a good month, man. That's
a good month. It's we did a post earlier today, about an hour ago, about one of my heroes, Master Sergeant Roy Benavidez. And I it's funny because James and I were talking about this before the show as I was doing this post. I grew up hearing the stories about him saying when I grew up, but I didn't know about him until President Reagan gave him the Medal of Honor. And apparently James knew about him growing up in Fort Bragg. And so it was pretty neat, listening to the story.
It's always like 7 degrees to bacon. It's like 7 degrees to the chow hall. So basically I would see his big picture off of Yakin Road. I think it was either Micasitas or San Jose. I couldn't remember the name of the restaurant, but we would go there during our breaks and I would see the picture of him on the wall. And now you've, explained to me the whole story. Now it makes sense.
He is the American Rambo. If you listen to his story about how he got blown up, got sent back to San Antonio. They said he wouldn't walk again. And he said, yeah, that's not happening. And he basically crawled out of his hospital bed and continued to just recuperate and set a goal from his hospital bed that he was going to be a Green Beret. And not only a Green Beret, but deployed back to Vietnam. And then, that's when the real story begins. That's when the real story begins, believe it or not, of how he went, deployed as a Green Beret to Vietnam, did his tour, and then endured this horrendous firefight and saved his buddies it's crazy. And for those heroic actions, that's how he won the Medal of Honor. He was actually pronounced dead. He was in a body bag, and that's how bad it was. But it was just crazy. But wow. So that's how we're kicking off Hispanic Heritage Month on our page on our social media. So the thing is, the post is there. It's pretty amazing, and I think that we also have another great way to kick off the month. We found out we actually have the best of both worlds with today's guest, this week's guest, right? Who do we have today?
Well, that's what I was doing. You were messing up my rhythm, but I was getting my United States Marine Corps flag so I could display it.
So
But
geez.
I couldn't. I was doing that, but you called me out. But we got a Marine in the house, man. A
We
Marine.
do. We're talking about diversity. We've got talk about a badass Marine,
Yeah.
diverse, female. James said Space Shuttle door gunner. I don't believe
Door gunner. Yeah, door gunner.
And we found out, James and I were trying to figure out, is she Latina? Is she Asian? Is she Filipino? We couldn't figure it out. Found out it's well, we'll let you tell her.
Well, there's multiple things that we could say. We got another example that we could share too that we can mention after the commercial break.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, are you ready to bring her on?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Boom. Yes. Yes. Oh man.
All right. So I apologize ahead of time. I was having terrible internet issues. So if I bump off, and if I bump off in a crazy face position like I was yesterday, James is going to be in charge. And I do apologize in advance.
That is going to be amazing.
I just thought about that. Gotta love the world of internet. So welcome to the lounge. Thanks for being here, Jennifer. We're so excited to have you here.
Happy to be here. Thanks, guys.
It's amazing. I know James. Look, he's already ready to pounce.
I'm already getting my notes out. I'm already get the dashboard ready to control. I mean, I've got my Marine Corps questions. I have my vets to PM questions. I have my MBA questions because I don't have an MBA. But anyway.
Awesome. I need to see that flag again. That was pretty awesome.
I know it is. It's the only thing Marine that I have in my office, but it was signed by a bunch of soldiers while I was deployed, and they signed the flag for me. So
awesome.
Anyway,
that's pretty cool. So, So the other thing that was talking about diversity. She's from the West Coast, which means you got up early for us.
I got up early.
But it's earlier over there, and it's like lunchtime over here. Yeah. So, man, bam! It's like total. This is awesome. So you were a Marine. When did you come into the Marine Corps, and what prompted that?
Well, let's see. I joined the Marine Corps in 2004. I was 18 years old, and what prompted me joining the Marine Corps, like a lot of people from my generation, I graduated high school in 2003. And it was September 11th. And, I learned so much about the military, and I felt called to serve. I felt called to be involved. I also read a really awesome book from my library. I checked out a book, and it was called Marine Sniper by Gunny Hathcock. It was Gunny Hathcock's son. Mm-hmm. And I was hooked. I had to join the Marines or no other service that was going to do the trick. So I knew I had to join the Marines, and I shipped out right after high school.
That is so badass. That is awesome. And so, all right. So I got to ask, how many people tried to talk you out of going to the Marines?
Oh my God. Yeah. Everybody tried to talk me out of it. All my family members, my parents. I was 16, I think, when I told them, hey, I'm joining the Marines. And they were like, yeah, no, you're not. So everyone tried to talk me out, from uncles and family members, and but I had my heart set on it. I wasn't going to take no for an answer, and the more they told me no, the more I was going to do it.
Right. Where were they trying to push you, or just not in the military at all?
Yeah, go get a job, maybe go to college, or
no, it wasn't the conception of, okay, if you're going to join the military, just please not the Marines, go Air Force, or it was just like, no, nothing.
It was nothing. Like, what are you thinking? We're at war. Are you nuts? And I was like, yeah, I think I'm nuts.
Yeah. My dad he wanted me to join the Marines, and I've told this story before, but his reasoning was, which sounds better? Hey, Marine, or hey, soldier. I was like, I'm going to go be an airborne ranger. I'm out. Um, yeah. Okay. So you join the Marines, and then you came in 2004, and at that point, things are getting pretty hectic. I think I had just finished I did 0304 and OIF 1. We're getting into the height of the war in Iraq, and Afghanistan's getting pretty well. Things are getting kind of hairy. Were you getting nervous and regretting your decision, or not? Maybe going, I don't know, sure about this, or was it still, no, this is the right thing. I got to do this.
No, I knew it was the right thing. As I was going through my training, I was going through boot camp and combat school and everything. And, I felt like they were preparing us. So, they were preparing us for what was ahead. They let us all know well in advance, you're going to be deploying. I was not a space shuttle door gunner, but I was a helicopter.
I told you, James.
They're all space shuttles. Anything that flies in the air is a space shuttle to me.
Yeah, so it's CH-46 helicopters. I was learning how to be a crew chief, and just really, I guess, respecting the role of a crew chief and the responsibilities that came along with that as an 18, 19, 20-year-old. I was very young, but I don't know if anything can really prepare you, but as the Marine Corps and the standard of their training, I was as prepared as I could have been.
Yeah. So, you chose to be a door gunner. So my question is, why did you choose that? Because let's think about this, let's put a time machine, timestamp, not trying to age or anything, but 2004, that necessarily wasn't the time when a lot of females were actually going into that line of work. Matter of fact, I don't know when that was opened up, but what made you decide to do that?
Yeah, I don't know I don't know if this statistic is correct, but when I graduated from aircrew school, they told me I was the 6th female to go through that school on that particular platform. And so, yeah, there weren't a lot of us. But what drove me, when you're 18 and you're looking through a bunch of job descriptions, I'm like, no desk job. I can't do that. I don't want to sit behind a desk. I want to be getting my hands dirty. If I could have been a Marine sniper, that was not open yet at the time, I would have been all for that. So I was trying to find something that was as close to getting in the action, and something that was open for females. I had to do a 5-year contract, and so I was a little hesitant about that versus a 4-year, but I figured it was worth it for the job experience, and no regrets.
So where did this come from? If you look at a friend, a family member, a church leader, or whatever, was there someone there? Who kind of, is there someone you go, yeah, I got this from Uncle Roy, like James has, or someone there, who's that person?
I wish I would have had Uncle Roy who I could look up to like that. I had a few family members who served in the military, but not a lot of them talked about it very much. So I didn't know anybody who had successfully served in the military and was encouraging me to do that. I did grow up in a very patriotic family. I was just talking to my mom this last week, and we were remembering a story, or I remembered the story, and it was a very early childhood memory of mine. I must have been 5 or 6. And it was during the Gulf War. Mm-hmm. We lived in San Jose, California. And I remember walking around our neighborhood and tying yellow ribbons on trees and asking the neighborhood, hey, can we put a yellow ribbon on your tree? And that's just one of my earliest memories. So like always wanting to do something is ingrained in who I am.
Wow. That is amazing. It's because that just shows, that really shows your character that you had to develop in yourself, and the intestinal fortitude, because it really does sound like you're a trailblazer in a lot of regards. And it's, I thank you for your service, because again, for me, I came in 1992. I'm an old guy.
That's when Lionel Richie was at the top of the charts, but yeah.
Hey, Lionel Richie making a comeback. He made a comeback. He's on American Idol, okay? So
he's a host.
He's a host, but he's okay. Anyway, getting off topic, okay? I came in 92. It was after the Gulf War, but things weren't like when you came in. And so knowing that that, you know, the stakes are high. You're going in and you're doing all that. I can't thank you guys enough for doing that. I mean, it always broke my heart as a commander. If I had to chapter a soldier out of the military, I always told them, and I would sit there with my first sergeant and be like, hey, you know what? The military is just not for you, but I really do thank you for your service because you're coming in at a time. And because you said you were in the service for 5 years, you signed that 5-year contract. So talk about the height of the war. I mean, that's because, you know, I did a deployment from November of 07 to April of 09 in Iraq. That's like the height of the war. You didn't pick an easy time to be in the service. So what was your favorite memory from the Marine Corps?
Gosh, that's a hard one. That's a really hard one. I was deployed in 2005 and 2006. And we were stationed in Al-Taqaddum, Iraq, which was right between Ramadi and Fallujah. So there was a lot going on in that time frame.
Yeah.
And we did CASEVACs, we did resupplies and raids. We did even troop transport in the evenings or our night flights. And one of my favorite, I guess, memories or my favorite flight ever was on Christmas Day in 2005. I had just turned 20 overseas. I was in Iraq. I was kind of sad that I was out of my teenage years, right? And I'm an adult now and I'm in Iraq. I'm all by myself and it's Christmas Day. Waiting for my family. I had called my family in the morning. But somehow, I don't know, I drew the ace of spades here. So I got on this awesome flight. Like I think it was an 8-hour flight. And we flew from Al-Taqaddum. We flew up to Balad, which is the north side of Iraq. We picked up some Iraqi soldiers who had just graduated boot camp. And we took them down to, Jordan. We took them down to Jordan, the very south side of Iraq. So on Christmas Day, I'm flying 8 hours, 100 feet and below across the countryside. It was just so beautiful. We flew over Babylon, saw the rivers, and it was just something that, it's a flight that I remember. It was very historic and kind of peaceful even. That was not me.
That was me. Sorry. No, that's. Oh,
so yeah, that was one of my best memories. It was one of my favorite flights ever.
Wow.
I can imagine the perspective that you had all the flight. I only had a couple flights where I got to sit and enjoy the actual flight. So, I mean, it's very peaceful up there. I can't really explain it, but there's just a different view of the world from that perspective. So, I mean, I just can't imagine that 8 hours and how enjoyable that was, because that was it's like a movie. You probably looked down and you were just like, wow. So I was Aladdin for some reason just came to my head, but it wasn't a magic carpet ride. But anyway,
or a space shuttle.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did have a question about the as far as when you were the crew chief of the aircraft. I mean, did you ever have any struggles where people were judging you based on that you were a female, that you felt like, that was something that, that happened? Because, my last deployment, I was in charge of an MP section. So I had both male and female. And to be honest and transparent, when I saw soldier, I saw soldier. I didn't care. I didn't see difference. I just saw performance, so I didn't know if you got treated, had any story that you could share with us of a good or a bad situation.
Yeah. So I think in my experience, so I deployed to Iraq, like I said. Not only did I deploy with this unit, I was the boot crew chief, meaning I was the newest one to join the unit, myself and a colleague. So to say, I mean, I got treated like a boot. I didn't know what I was doing. I was learning along the way. I was the new guy, if you will. And so to say, I don't think I got treated differently. I think I got treated like a boot. But I also think that I was able to prove myself. I was a halfway decent mechanic. I grew into my role as a crew chief. I took it seriously. I was 19 years old. So, all that into perspective, I would say that I came away from the deployment and I walked away from the military, from the Marine Corps, with a ton of friends who are more like family now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, kept in touch with a lot of camaraderie. And I feel like, as I learned my role and was able to prove myself as a crew chief, that I earned some respect.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things where there's a fine line. Am I being treated like crap because I'm Mexican, because I'm female, because I'm this, or because I'm the FNG? If it's because I'm the FNG, the freaking new guy or gal, that's a little bit different, I think, sometimes. And there's limits on that too. You shouldn't, I think one of our battalion commanders that James and I had. So those that don't know, James and I were we served together as lieutenants. And when I first came in, when we had new privates come in, it was like just harass the heck out of them, basically break the new toy. And our battalion commander was like, stop, this is stupid. Why don't you bring the new people in and make them part of the family, put them at the table and teach them the way so that they learn the way. This is the way. And so it was a shift of, well, it's not a FNG. It is, hey, here's the new family member. And so it was, I think we saw that as the war went on, it was, wow, we're going to be here for a while. We need to really, these deployments are quick, fast, and in a hurry. We're literally every 12 months, we're going out the door. We don't have time for this Mickey Mouse shit of just being assholes for being assholes. What is one of the things that you take from your time in the military with you and you reflect on in your career now, that you just, you can reflect and go, no matter what's going on, I've got this as my home base, or my touch plate, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So one of the things, when I did my deployment, when I did all of my training, is that, I'll walk you through the pool, for instance. I was never a competitive swimmer, but I had to go through rescue swimmer school. And I remember that I failed a pool event, and you fail once, you get to try it one more time, you fail again, you're out. Right. And so at that moment, I made a decision. I'm not failing this event the second time. And I think I had 5 minutes to prepare for, to try it again.
Yeah.
You had to jump off a high dive, right, and swim underwater, and your foot can't break the plane of the water. And so I had made a technical mistake the first time, and my foot came out of the water. So I hugged the bottom of the pool, and I was touching the bottom of the pool, and I could feel it was kind of rough. And then I was underwater for a long time, and I'm swimming, and things start to go dark, and the pool starts to get dark, and I'm like, okay, I can still feel the bottom of the pool. This is fine. I felt smooth line. I was like, this must be my line. I think I'm good. I came up. I popped up. But the point was that I wasn't going to come up until I felt that line, and I wasn't going to give up. I wasn't going to quit. And now, in my real life, I do a lot of difficult projects. I started doing my doctorate degree, and when things get hard, or when I've got a lot on my plate, I just tell myself, hey, you've done harder things. Remember that pool? Remember you weren't going to give up. Remember you dove all the way to the bottom, and you touched the bottom until you were done. And so that's what I tell myself is, hey, you've done harder things than this. Suck it up, keep going.
I love that. I think what I want to do is I want to cut to commercial, because you touched on something there, how that transitions to where you're at now with your program and project management. So let's cut to commercial, and let's transition to that when we come back. All right.
Awesome.
You're watching the Lounge with Legends TV show with your hosts, Marty Martinez and James A. Phelps.
All right, if you're just tuning in, we've got Jennifer Vollbrecht on, of former Marine turned program manager and CEO. And before the commercial break, she had just discussed about how she was in the pool, and it basically, that moment of not giving up so she could achieve her ultimate goal of passing this test, set in her mind that anything is possible, and how that how do I say this? That just set the course for where she is today with her hard, difficult project. So I want to pull the thread on that. So now you're out of the military. You've gotten out of the military, and did you jump immediately into project management, program management, or how did this come about?
Gosh, I wish I could have, but it's all about the journey, right? And so I stumbled a little bit when I got out. I didn't know what I was qualified for. I was applying for management positions, like, oh yeah, I've led these missions and I've led this many crews, and I thought I was qualified. And they were like, hey, you need to be applying for these entry-level positions. And I'm 23 years old. I'm confused, like, where do I fit into the workplace? And, finally, 3 jobs later, in 6 months, I found myself back on a flight line. And I was working for a defense contractor, and I was a flight line manager, a hangar manager, and an integration and test engineer. And so I kind of found my footing there. And I learned to, I was coordinating people, I was coordinating flights and pilots and contractors and all that stuff, and really kind of fell into project management. I worked under the project manager. Wow. And I was an engineer. I was an entry-level engineer, but I would say, hey, how can I help you? What can I do for you? And how can I learn this profession? And so she took me under her wing for a couple years, which was awesome. I got my project management professional certification. I got my MBA, and I knew, like, hey, I want to be a project manager. And I went and started my career there. And so I started working as a project manager. I ended up working for a national laboratory and doing construction projects there. And so I went kind of from aviation into nuclear construction. There's a little bit of a jump there, but it made sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little. It sounds. I mean,
that's what I said about the helicopter and the space shuttle. So it kind of made sense. Wow.
So go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say. So basically, it sounds like it's kind of a similar transition for us veterans. We come out, we kind of stumble. A lot of us stumble initially. I think mine was a year, and then I was at 3 jobs. So you outperformed me there too. So I was at a year and at 3 jobs. But what I did mention, I don't know if you're going to mention the book or not, but I know you're in this book. I was looking at this book on page 225. You're on 225 in this book.
Jamie, what's the name of the book you're holding?
I thought you were going to do that. How to Speak Civilian Fluently and Prove It with Your CM Credentials by Doc Eric Wright. Right? I know you're a contributing author in here.
Yep.
But I was reading through that, and even it just seems like it always takes support from others to actually get you and use that leverage to springboard you into the next thing. And like you just said, if it wasn't for that tutelage from your mentor, would you be where you are today? So how do you recommend to the veterans that are out here listening, how do they find that mentor that's legit, that's actually looking out for their best intentions and not just trying to take advantage of them? Do you have any advice for them on how to do that?
Yeah. So that's an age-old question. You've got to have mentors. You have to have mentors. I think that's mandatory if you want to, advance in your career and have somebody. And so a mentor is a little bit different from a sponsor, right? A sponsor is going to, promote you when you're not in the room, and a mentor is going to work with you directly one-on-one and give you that feedback where, my mentor can say, hey, you're a little too intense. Hey, people think you're yelling at them. and she's like, I know that you're not yelling, but they think you're yelling at them because you're so intense sometimes. You just like bark orders. And so I had to Okay. All right. Let me take this into account. Let me make some little adjustments and, maybe get to know people a little bit better so they know my personality, but then also work on how I'm projecting myself. And am I projecting myself as a mean, crazy Marine, or am I just a lady who likes to get the job done?
Mm-hmm.
And so it took a lot of practice, a lot of failure, a lot of rubbing people the wrong way, or maybe coming off a little too harsh to find the right balance. And I still check myself on that note in particular a lot of the time. Like, hey, was that mean? Or hey, how did they take that? Or I'll try to debrief with my colleagues. Like, did I come off too intense? And really try to take that to heart.
I think that's huge. I catch myself a lot of times because I come off as James tells me, intense. I feel bad for James because we're on Zoom a lot, like 8 hours a day, and I'm like constantly Mr. Motivational Speaker to James. But it's I constantly and I say a lot, especially when I'm in speaking engagements. Does that make sense? Because I don't want to be like in your face, and I want to make sure that I'm actually communicating. And James and I just we had a discussion about the difference between hearing and listening, because I want them to listen to what I'm saying vice hearing, and it's about how I'm communicating my message. That's hearing. Listening is actually what I'm saying and how I'm conveying the message. So I think you're spot on, and especially you took the question right out of my mouth about the difference between the teacher and the mentor, because we often say teach, coach, mentor, and we throw it out there, but no one ever chases it with, let me explain the difference between the teach, the coach, and the mentor and what it really is. Teach is this is A, this is B, this is C. The coach is, okay, I'm going to give you a little bit more, but the mentor is, come here, James. Well, let me tell you about it a little bit. Let's smooth you around the edges and get you out there. It's actually more Marty than James. James is he's the sweet guy of the group here. But
that is true.
Did you find that, because you said you really didn't have necessarily somebody pushing you into the military before? Did you not have like mentors before, and then after the military, you realized maybe you had mentors, but you didn't really see them in that role, or you just started looking more for mentors after the military?
I started looking more after the military because I was stumbling in my active duty to veteran transition.
Yes.
And I was bouncing through jobs, and I was like, what is happening? I didn't expect it to be like this. And it was my uncle told me, hey, go down to the American Legion, tell them I sent you, find someone you could talk to. And I did. And I met Tino Adame, who's another Marine Corps veteran, served in Vietnam as a Purple Heart, and he just took me under his wing, and he would call me. And to this day, he calls me. He called me when all that stuff was going down in Afghanistan. Hey, are you okay? This stuff's on the news. So having somebody who is going to look out for you and encourage you, I started looking for that big time after I got out. And then at work too. Hey, I want to progress, and I want to progress quickly. I have life experience. I have leadership experience. You got me in a entry level role. What can I do? And what can I do extra that's going to get me there faster? That's my doorbell.
There's your groceries.
No, that's so. Yeah, no, I think that's awesome, and I really appreciate the fact that you mentioned the organizations. I'm a member of American Legion here in DC, and so you've got the VFW, and those that are listening that are out there, you've got organizations like American Legion, VFW. James and I talk about Three Rangers, Gallant Few. There's a whole bunch of organizations for people, because I think one of the challenges we have, and we talk about a lot, is the transition out of the military is easy. And a lot of times as we're transitioning out, it's like, just get me out of here, throw my boots on the wire, give me my DD-214. And then you get out and you're like, holy shnikes, I'm not ready for this, because the transformation from military to back into the civilian workforce, or as Eric, I love it, what he calls it, the civ div, it's different. You know, the vernacular. I still say 1300. I'm catching myself. I'm like, oh wait, and I got to put those two little dot things, whatever those things were called again. You know, I mean, so there's little things in there. I still say I'm going to go hit the head. You know, there's little things that we're having to just transform out of that. And like you were mentioning, am I too in your face because I'm a Marine? I'm military. Should I not use the knife hand? Is that too much in your face? You know, so there's those things that you're not necessarily going to get as you transition. And I think, did you feel like you were completely, or not completely, but mostly set up for success when you were getting out of the Marines?
No, I didn't. I felt like I thought like, oh yeah, I'm ready for this. I had a job offer before I got out.
Yeah.
And that was cool. I was ahead of my peers in that regard. But I showed up, I had worked on helicopters on a flight line and lived in a tent for the past 5 years. You know, I went from that life to working in an office building. I think I was on like the 5th or 6th floor. I didn't know what to wear. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to ask questions. I didn't know how to work a professional schedule. There's so many things that I didn't know. And then I was purely in the office on a computer, and I was there for 3 weeks. And I was like, this isn't for me. I can't do this. I quit my first job.
There's a former Marine. He's got a YouTube channel, Real Men, Real Style. And his name's Antonio. I forget his last name. Centino, I think. And he gives basic classes on here's how to dress. And it's for actually all gentlemen. But I'm like, it's really needed for just transitioning military, because we wear a uniform all day. And we kind of joke that if you get out, you can pick out the military guy, because they're going to be in sneakers, khaki cargo pants, and some sort of t-shirt or polo shirt. And that's like a uniform. When you get out, you're like, well, maybe you can't wear that into the office building or whatever it is. Question. So when you got out of the military and you realized maybe you weren't set up completely for success, did you, when you looked back, did you put the blame on yourself, on your command team, on the installation, or kind of a little bit of all? You're like, man, I rushed out of here too fast, or maybe my command should have set me down and did more counseling with me, or, you know, as you kind of reflect on that.
Yeah, as I reflect, I mean, there's some programs now that are much more robust than what they had at the time. But I definitely, I take full responsibility for the way that I transitioned, and it was harder than I expected, but I definitely came out the right side. And so I also have myself to thank for that, right, and being resilient. So I would say that as I reflect on those days and months in that first year out of the Marine Corps, that I know now that I can make a difference for others who are transitioning out. And that's my affiliation with Doc, right? And with Vets to PM. And that's where that comes in.
Yeah, because the ones that are listening out there that, that'd be affiliated with Vets to PM, or just even leaving the military in general, is there like one piece of advice, one recommendation, one suggestion you would have them do prior to ETSing?
Yeah, I think I have two. So one is, if you're able to get into the Skill Bridge program, it's amazing. I've hosted 3 residents so far with my company. And so what you do is for 6 months, or, anywhere from, I think, 4 to 6 months before you get off active duty, you are an intern or a resident with a company. And it depends on what job field you want to get in, but the military still pays your salary. You work for this company. You have an opportunity to have a really, really long runway for transitioning out, doing all your paperwork, finding a job. Maybe you get hired by the host company. There's lots of possibilities. If you're not able to get into the Skill Bridge program, then I would recommend just do a lot of interviews, do as many as you can, and talk. During my first job interview, I told a story about an emergency ammo resupply to a bunch of civilians. And I'm like, we're under fire and we're moving pallets around. And, as I was going crazy with this mission debrief, and afterwards I thought to myself, like, that probably wasn't the right story, right? Like, well, they didn't want to hear that.
Right.
It's
So
funny that you mention that. Oh God.
No,
They were probably like, "What are you talking about?" Right? I interviewed for a, at the Costco at the front door. They have these folks that are passing out these memberships and say, "Hey, look, you'd be a good sales representative." So I applied for the position. I went in and I call him a kid because he was obviously three times younger than I was. I walked in. He said, "Let me tell you about life," and I said, "I'm out. I'm gonna have to leave this job interview." But you hit the nail on the head. You got to be prepared for these interviews, because if you go in, we're going to revert back to what we know, and we're going to talk the language that we know. So that's perfect. Yeah, that's great advice.
So how did you wind up starting and becoming a CEO, and where you're at now? Because we named this episode the one with the Queen of Energy. And I named that because I was reading your resume and your bio, and I'm like, my word, you're now project manager and a preferred vendor, and you're working with the Department of Energy, Department of Transportation, and all this amazingness. How did that happen? Did you just wake up one day and this just fell in your lap?
No, not at all. I had always kind of wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I had no idea how to make that happen. And so I went to UCLA and did a certificate of entrepreneurship as a veteran boot camp. And I had no business idea. I was just collecting resources. And it was about 5 or 6 years later when I was working at a national laboratory as a project manager, and I saw an opportunity. And my opportunity was, gosh, there's not enough people in this industry. We need to make and train more of them, and then filter them into the laboratories so that they can complete their mission. And I think I want to take that opportunity and make that my business idea. And so, I sat on it, I reflected and talked with my husband and made a plan. And I had myself 1 year's worth of contracts before I left my job. I quit my job. I jumped off a cliff. I have 2 children and a husband and a house and, all those things. And so it was very scary, but made the transition, and I have not looked back. It's been almost 3 years, and it's been amazing. Such a fun journey. Just having fun, making mistakes, failing fast, trying again. And it definitely suits me.
I love it. Because you mentioned something about, failing fast, failing forward. And we talk about that a lot, it is okay to fail, because to fail is just a first attempt in learning. It's only when you stop trying and that's when you're a failure.
Yep.
And that's amazing. Because that's something that I think that goes back to your swim test, right? That goes full circle back to your swim test and where you're at now. That's your whole story. I think you just summed it up right there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I see James' lips moving, so he's going to say something.
No, I was going to say, if it gets as hard as in the pool, we're in trouble anyway. Because if it would have been me, I'd have been floating to the top early. I wouldn't have been able to get. Things would have went to black. I'd have went up to the surface a lot sooner. That's all I'm saying. But that's a great thing that you can rely. Hey, look, if I could do that, I can do anything. And that's what I think a lot of veterans, they lose focus and forget. Hey, look, you've already accomplished so much in your life. You're not a failure. Look back at the things that you've done. You are doing things that less than 1% of America wants to do, right? So you got to use those things and then come back and celebrate. I'm excited. I got intimidated. I looked at your bio. I was like, man, this is like a successful rap sheet. It's like mine is like the opposite. I probably had about 6 jobs and then still trying to figure out who I want to be when I grow up. Maybe mentor to Marty Martinez. We'll see.
Well, he is every day. No, but I think it's pretty amazing. And I love your story, Jennifer, because it's really inspiring, because you really have done so much. You came in at the height of the war as we were ramping up, and, we hadn't even figured out the counterinsurgency strategy yet. We were still just in a bloody brawl, and you came in, you got out, and I mean, honestly, you were like kind of like when I got out, because I was enlisted and I got out. I was like, I'm out. And then but I went to college, but then I still realized I really still don't have a plan. I was literally working construction because I got out of the infantry. And so I was working construction. I didn't really have a plan. And it wasn't until later on that I figured out, okay, here's what I needed to do. But, fast forward, 40 years, it's not until now that I figured out entrepreneurship is what I really wanted. You figured this out much earlier, which is amazing. And the work that you're doing with Marines and his mentorship is awesome. Are there programs that you're helping with Marines now that if they wanted to get in touch with you, or is it through Vets to PM, or how do people reach out if they wanted to be have you as a mentor?
Yeah, so Vets to PM is definitely where I get my transitioning service members, and I am biased, of course, to Marines, but I have had other services go through the program. But I am passionate about helping veterans to transition. And, DOC's mission is to find, lucrative and gainful employment. That resonated with me because it's not about just finding a job. It's finding something that you're good at and that you're passionate about, something that gets you out of bed every morning. And I love working with veterans to help them find that.
That's what it's about. And I love the mission of, if you just help one person, then you can lay in bed at night and say, I was successful today. I can declare victory.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. What's up, James?
No, I'm taking it in, I'm typically the quiet one of the group, but I really am taking it in because, there's just so much I could see. Other than the fact I'm not a Marine, I apologize for that. But I would definitely reach out and see, get some advice on how we could, how I could help myself, how I could better myself in business. Yeah. As far as business goes, what would you think is your biggest success up to this point so far in business?
Well, yeah. My biggest success is, I think it was starting. Not only was it starting the business, but in the first year I turned a profit. Holy smokes. I was floored when I learned that I had come up with a profitable business model and something that was sustainable. Yes, I know. No, it's huge. It's huge. As I work with other entrepreneurs and try to help them to solve those types of problems, I really feel like I landed in the right space.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it reminds me of what was Back to the Future. It works.
It works. Yeah.
This shit's gonna work, man.
I think the Marines are starting to invade the screen there. What is that? Cedric Van. Oh man. The fun fact of that is, though, he's not only a Marine, but he was one of my soldiers. He was a Spartan. So he's both Marine Corps and Army. So I'll give you a pass, Van. Thanks for tuning in.
So we have a lot of veterans that believe PM is the route for them to go. What is the number one thing you would tell them to prepare themselves for a PM career? How do you prepare for that?
Yeah, I think that project manager is the greatest career, in my opinion. And I think that it meshes nicely with a veteran. You have a lot of experience leading multiple teams towards a common goal. And that's kind of what you're doing as a project manager. So if you're thinking about getting into the field, I would say study, right? You got to know project management by the book so you can speak the language because you already know the concepts. But learn the language, like Doc says. And then do what you can to get your foot in the door. And even if you're getting your foot in the door, some sideways approach, like, hey, I'm coming in through project controls, or I'm coming in through construction management, and then find your mentor, right? Yeah. Find your mentor and say, hey, how do I do what you're doing? So find somebody that you look up to who's doing your ideal position or your ideal job, and try to learn as much as you can from them. So that's what I would say.
I like it. We keep going back to this one thing of finding a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's finding a mentor at American Legion, finding a mentor in a field you want to go to, finding a mentor in your military career, whatever it is, I think you need. That's the thing. It goes, find that mentor. That's going to help you. And for me, finding a mentor as you transition and transform out of the military is the thing that's going to help you set you up for success, I think.
Yep.
And I had a couple do that. James was one of the guys that helped me do that. As I did my own transformation, because I realized I was transitioning out. I didn't begin the transformation till I started to unpack some things and talk about some of the things that were in my brain housing group. That's kind of why we started this show. We talked about it. It was the power of story and just having conversations like this and going, wow, there's some stuff that we just need to talk about.
Well, there's so many of us, we're more alike than we are different, even though we're Marines and, soldiers, that's the difference. But as far as, our service didn't end with a contract. We're still here to serve. Most mentors are still here to serve. Looks like somebody dialed in here and gave you, exactly, Orlando. That's, amazing advice. So
if you haven't met Orlando, he's got the best hair in the business.
I thought you told me I did.
No, sorry. Not till Orlando dials in. I mean, he's got the best hair. No, I think that mentor is key. But I'd be ashamed if we got to the show and I didn't ask you the question. So you've served, you've sacrificed, you've had your birthday while deployed, your 20th birthday. So for us as veterans and combat veterans, freedom means something just a little bit different. So Jennifer, we ask you, what does freedom mean to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a great moment to reflect. And for me, it's my security blanket. I know what I've done. I'm confident in what I've achieved to this day. And it's for me the ability to pass that legacy down to my children.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, I love that. Speaking of that, are you working on a book right now?
I am, yes. The manuscript is done, and I'm shopping around for someone to publish it. And my book is titled "My Mommy is a Veteran."
I love it.
Before Marty asks, I got to interrupt him. Before he asks, there's a competition between he and I. And can I get an autographed, signed copy before he does? That's
First edition.
Request.
You asked.
Awesome. You heard it, Moak. I'm getting it first.
No, I love that. I love that because my daughter, like I've told you, my wife is, we were dual military. My wife is still in. And so it's pretty cool that she says, my mommy's in the Army. And so I think that book is going to be really cool. I will be the first to buy the book, whether it's autographed or not. I will be the first to buy the book when it is ready. And then we will let everybody know about your book when it is ready.
Absolutely.
And let us know. And we'll have you back on so you can tell us all about your book when it is ready, Jennifer.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Then thank you for being an amazing legend this week and sharing your story with us. So,
thanks for having me. This was great. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for your service. Wow, James, what an amazing episode. We're definitely going to have to follow up with her and get more about that book.
That book is a much needed thing right now,
I agree. And I agree with Nick. It's a great show. And I think it was a great show because I didn't freeze in an awkward position.
I was waiting. I was ready to chime in. I had my computer ready to go, and I was ready to stream and take charge of the keyboard. But, on a serious note, a lot of information was put out. Feel free to reach out to Jennifer. She is amazing, and she will, it seems like the type that would pay it forward, and that's what we do, right? We're stronger together.
Check out Vex. Go to Vets to PM. Go through there. Get assigned a mentor. Go through there. Check out the book, How to Speak Civilian Fluently. Yes, in there, and I think that's probably the best way. And if you're looking, as we mentioned, the American Legion and the VFW. Those are also other great resources. Find a mentor. We can't stress that enough.
Today, the VA sent out an email, and it's just titled. It says, "Reach out, reach out, ask for help, reach out. We're here to help. Everyone is." Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm gonna close this out because I want to catch Jennifer in the green room before she leaves real quick. It was an absolute pleasure to host this room. Next week we have Carl Monger of Gallant Few. We're going to talk about his book, Common Sense Transition. Amazing book. Another Ranger in the house. I know James got lucky. His is autographed as well. But we're actually gonna record this one because we're going to be at a conference next week. But Carl Monger, Gallant Few, amazing. He's also got a conference coming up in Texas, the 7th, 8th, and 9th of October called Vet Expo. Check it out. It's in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Gallant Few is another one of those great organizations that helps veterans. And we're going to be showing some clips from when they had Simon Sinek, huge veteran supporter. And they're what he was talking about, start with why in the infinite game. So until next week, be legendary.
You've been watching the Lounge with Legends show on E360 TV, countering the narrative that veterans are all broken misfit toys. Veterans are the lifeblood of American freedom. Serving in harsh situations, coupled with their training, have forged them into some of the most resilient and capable leaders in the world. And that's where we come in, celebrating the success stories, taking you on a journey of transformation from military to business. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll be back soon. But find us on Facebook at Lounge with Legend or at JTF214. Till next time.